Chapter 18. The Second Wave of Satanism. Gibble, gobble, gobble, gobble. We'll make you one of us. One of us, one of us. We will make you one of us. Recited by Dwarf during the wedding feast scene in Freaks. What I'm doing now is teaching the black history of Satanism, says LaVey, regarding his current sinister endeavors. I'm tracing back to our satanic roots in the philosophies of Machiavelli, Milton, Herbert Spencer, Rabelais, G.B. Shaw, Maugham, Nietzsche, film noir. There has always been a genetic strain of Satanists, but it's just now getting to the point where we can stand up to identify ourselves and our forebears. Young people are hungry to know the philosophy behind Satanism. Now, since 1984, it's time for the second wave to crest. Augmenting his philosophy recorded in the Satanic Bible, which LaVey maintains is just as valid as when it was first written, he views his current role as broadening the principles of Satanism through application. We'll follow Huey Long's direction. When fascism comes to America, it will be in the form of Americanism. I'm taking a thoroughly American thought form and seeing it for what it always was. When Satanism becomes the major religion in the United States, it will be complete with red, white, and blue banners flying accompanied by the blaring trombones of John Philip Sousa. As evidence of the rising tide of Satanism, LaVey points to the cavalier, even flaunting, attitude young people have about the images of the devil. While their horrified parents wonder what kind of heathen monster they've raised, their children idolize Satan as their rebel king. There are plenty of people in their teens and 20s out there saying they worship the devil because it's cool now, and a lot of their friends call themselves Satanists. A lot of them don't understand much more than what they see on MTV, but the point is they are giving homage to the devil and not to God. There's no need for human sacrifices and pacts with the devil anymore. These kids are already aligned with satanic forces. Now they participate in altar calls at rock concerts, regardless of, or because of, their parents' outrage. They could take delight in wearing the Baphomet for great shock value. People who wear the symbol regularly report they get a much stronger reaction with it than when they wear, for instance, Nazi regalia. With a swastika, people can get righteously offended. The person wearing it wants to be labeled an Aryan supremacist, far right-winger, something like that. Immediately pigeonholed. But the Baphomet doesn't represent a particular historical context. You can't pigeonhole the satanic symbol or Satanists. It just evokes dark, unexplained, but intense primal fears. The reaction tends to be, we don't know much about it, but we know we should be afraid of it. And it's not just young people participating in mainstreaming Satanism. Halloween is now more popular and widely celebrated than Christmas. Christmas only means distress, guilt, suicides, loneliness, death. Halloween is fun. Not a time for necessary family reunions, but just getting together with friends for parties, drinking, and playing dress-up. There are whole systems of thought, like neo-tech discovery, which offers Satanism in a gray flannel suit, provides overnight wealth, and never mentioned the dreaded S-word. Megabrain applies early Church of Satan-style ritual to the business world, adding meditation techniques to appeal to the softcore New Age and yuppie markets. CASH, the Continental Association of Satan's Hope. Just make your checks out to cash. Based in Canada, began by reprinting sections of the Satanic Bible and reproducing the Baphomet before they were warned of copyright infringement. Another Canadian, a Dr. Lawrence Posner, claimed to have never heard of the internationally famous Church of Satan before the publication of his purportedly factual Michelle Remembers, the Rosetta Stone of all current satanic abuse testimonials. Dr. Pastor eventually married his subject, Michelle Smith, and they are still gathering credulous audiences for their Satan-busting seminars. In reality, our mainstream influence is just the tip of the iceberg. For every one of those kids you see at rock concerts holding up the sign of the horns and not knowing anything about it, there are maybe 5 or more kids who have read the Satanic Bible, know what Satanism is, and are growing up to the stage now where they're gaining positions of power and having a real effect in the world around us. In the motion picture industry, the arts, business, academia, politics, they don't wear it on their sleeves, so you probably wouldn't even know they were Satanists. But you figure those who were born in 1955 or 1960, who have grown up living most of their lives in a post-1966 satanic age, are now reaching 27, 29, 32 years old. They're getting established in their chosen fields, and their philosophy is bound to have an effect on the way they operate. They're getting tired of the bullshit. Now we're getting what I call second-generation Satanists. The Church of Satan has been in existence for most of their lives, and they take the effects of Satanism as the rule rather than the exception. Sexual freedom, not believing in God, independence of mind. They are choosing Satanism as a way of life because it was never shoved down their throats like Christian parents do with their religion. The infant is learning to walk, and by the first working year of his age, that is to say, 1984, he will have steadied his steps, and by the next, 2002, he will have attained maturity, and his reign will be filled with wisdom, reason, and delight. Last sentence in the Satanic Rituals. LaVey describes Satanism as a secular philosophy of rationalism and self-preservation, natural law, animal state, gift-wrapping these ideas in religious trappings to add to their appeal. A Satanist enters the supernatural realm by choice, with eyes open and hearts clear, rather than taking a supernatural belief as a starting point, like superstitious primitives trying to explain lighting or Christians explaining the virgin birth. Satanists have a firm grounding in rational methods of thinking as a foundation to stand on. Without it, you're trying to reach the sky, or even stand on the sky with no ladder beneath you. Christians consider logic a non-option, something that is treated as if it were dangerous. Under the Christian pastoral system, you have to keep paying to keep sinless. If you stop paying, then you won't get into heaven. You have to go to big buildings to pray. If we have altars set up in our own homes, they can't be legislated. Money can't be collected on them. Satanism takes religion beyond the realm of consumerism. If the truth were known, one of the major threats of reports of devil-worshipping Sabbaths is that they are independent, not tightly organized into a strict structure. Trying to discover Satanists, real Satanists, is like nailing custard to the wall. You have to break into everyone's home and see if they have a satanic altar. And even if they didn't have an altar, they might still be Satanists. People send letters to the church frantically asking, "What can I do to become an active member? What do I do to become a satanic priest?" Of course, what they're really asking is, where do I go to meet other Satanists? Give me an address to meet other people. How do I get to be an official? My attitude would be, if you have to ask, you ain't one. It's like the joke about the price of the yacht. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. If you're a priest or priestess in the outside world already, we'll know. The 5 degrees of Satanism are still valid, but in a much more practical way. based on the Satanist's level of participation in the outside world. What I call mainstream or first-level Satanists are the equivalent to what we used to call apprentices. They go to a 9-to-5 job, earn good money, wear acceptable clothes, have formal rituals, drive cars that look basically the same as everyone else's, watch television, yet agree with and apply Satanism in a positive way in their lives. At the other end of the spectrum, we still have practicing magisters and magistras who divorce themselves from the mainstream as much as possible and arrange their lives to earn money at things that entail a minimal amount of contact with the herd. Artists, directors, writers, performers, entrepreneurs of various kinds. If you want to get titles and wear robes, this is not the organization for you. We want to apply Satanism for our own good and not use it as a crutch to convey false achievement. As a rule, LaVey doesn't disclose membership figures. If it's too low, we would be perceived as insignificant. And if it was too high, we'd be considered too much of a threat, and there would be reason to destroy us. If you can be quantified, then you can be expendable. Then you can be disposed of. Besides, after 25 years, it would be very difficult to calculate our membership. Members are lifetime members. They don't have to pay any renewal fees every year, so we have had a cumulative increase since 1966. Tom Wedge explains this phenomenon in his 1987 book, The Satan Hunter. However, it must be realized that the great preponderance of the followers of the Church of Satan have never formally made an effort to actually join the church. The thousands who follow portions of the teachings of Anton LaVey and the others of his like are not those who become contributing members. The majority of the followers of the precepts of the Church of Satan are those teenagers who pay the $3.95 purchase price for a copy of the paperback edition of the Satanic Bible. LaVey feels that's the way it should be. As for actual members, either they're with us or they're not. It won't change 10 or 20 years later. The idea is to mold people's minds and send them out among men, not to keep them milling around the same corral like sheep. If their eyes are opened, there's no turning back. Nothing will ever be the same for them. These are people who don't need to go to group rituals to feel connected to the source. A truly secret society for magicians who are working advanced black magic and influencing the outside world. What's the advantage in being a big fish in a little pond when you can be a big fish in a big pond? When you're a somebody out there, you don't need to advertise your affiliations. That's fine for people who are just starting out. It's fun and indulgent, and if they want to get together with a few friends to use my books to perform rituals, that's great. But eventually they want to apply their magic in a way that will get them ahead in the real world. Just as there has been a new breed of Satanist resurfacing, there's a new breed of experts in Satanism to round out the field. LaVey is disdainful of these self-appointed occult investigators. They obviously don't know the first thing about what I've written or what I advocate. If they'd read my books instead of just wave them in the air, they might know something about Satanism. But they seem to prefer making it up as they go along. There was more factual, more informed reporting going on in 1975 than there is now. Of course, there's more money and attention in being a professional hysteric now, making a living telling your masturbatory fantasies on nationwide TV. There are people on the talk show circuit who claim to be ex-members or ex-priests in a satanic organization who can't even show they read the same book I wrote, let alone give an accurate rendition of our practices and philosophy. It's funny that they're always high priests. They're never any low priests or just plain priests, right? There were no high priests until I came along, except in Puccini operas. In Chicago, there's a center for multiple personalities studying adult survivors of satanic abuse. Now, what's that supposed to mean? There was no modern, organized satanic movement before I came along. And here, all these middle-aged women telling about how they were raped and tortured as children when their parents belonged to a satanic cult? That would have been in the 1940s. There were none. Lord knows, I looked. Producers don't send camera crews out to track down these women's parents and get their stories. No one looks up the women's psychological histories. If there were any Freudians left, they'd see what's going on. But the din of sensationalism muffles the sound of falling ratings. When it's ratings time, it's a good time to talk about Satanism. What unfortunately happens is they want to talk about Satanism, but it's too dangerous to talk about real satanic ideas. Since the airing of a 1985-2020 episode, a renewed mythology has formed around Satanism. The catalog of blood-curdling and spine-chilling true stories about Satanists hark back in style and in content to Julius Streicher's anti-Jewish propaganda, sucking the blood from Christian children with a straw. LaVey answers his accusers concerning dark satanic doings. There's no possible way to get out of a satanic cult, only through death. All anyone has to do is write a letter to get out. No one's kicked out unless they do something blatantly against our tenets, or unless they request to have their names taken from our lists. 2. There are 3 categories of Satanists. 1. Traditional Satanists. 2. Religious Satanists. And 3. Freestyle Satanists. There are no categories of Satanists. There are Satanists, and then there are nuts. These satanic know-it-alls try to fabricate a division just so they won't get sued. By saying there are different categories, they can say, "Oh, we didn't mean you, of course. We meant those other guys that don't really exist. You're the good Satanist." There's no such thing as a good Satanist. Actually, I would divide satanic posers into 3 groups: Satanists, Christian Satanists, and nuts. I'd define Christian Satanists as those who are attracted to Satanism, but can't seem to break away from Christianity altogether. They continue to work within a primitive framework of good versus evil, taking the part of evil instead of good. Whenever you get an inkling of the Dungeons and Dragons, good/evil mythos, you know they don't know much about true evil. You have to take Satan within yourself to smash that Christian orientation. 3. You have to sell your soul to Satan and sign a pact in blood. Come on. Souls are very cheap these days. This myth is perpetuated by Christian Satanists who are following the lead of medieval witch hunters. Satan demands a much harder task than signing over your soul in blood. He demands that you live your life as fully as you can, prosper by your own wits, and avoid misery. You wouldn't believe what a tall order that is for most people. and 4. You have to believe in God to believe in Satan. Satan is a myth designed by Christians, so you can't believe in one without the other. People, even those who call themselves practitioners of the old religion, can't conceive of a philosophy beyond Christianity, beyond good against evil. It's like worshiping the devil. We don't worship Satan, we worship ourselves, using the metaphorical representation of the qualities of Satan. Satan is the name used by Judeo-Christians for that force of individuality and pride within us. But the force itself has been called by many names. We embrace Christian myths of Satan and Lucifer, along with satanic renderings in Greek, Roman, Islamic, Sumerian, Syrian, Phrygian, Egyptian, Chinese, or Hindu mythologies, to name a few. But we are not limited to one deity, but encompass all the expressions of the accuser, or the one who advocates free thought and rational alternatives by whatever name he is called in a particular time and land. It so happens that we are living in a culture that is predominantly Judeo-Christian, so we emphasize Satan. If we were living in Roman times, the central figure, perhaps the title of our religion would be different. But the name would be expressing and communicating the same thing. It's all context. The more harmful accusations leveled against Satanism of ritual human and animal sacrifice, kidnapping, child abuse, torture, rape, these go beyond theology into the realm of criminal activities. LaVey remains unruffled. When a Christian commits a crime, it's not dubbed a Christian cult murder. As more satanic Bibles are sold, there are more chances one will be found at a murder site or among a murderer's personal effects. It's inevitable, with so many members, that sometime soon a criminal or victim's gonna have an actual Church of Satan membership card on their person. And won't that be exciting? It doesn't make it a ritual murder. It makes a juicy copy. I'd like to see the day when headlines read, "Slasher reported to be involved in Christian group," with the accompanying article outlining the incriminating evidence found in the killer's apartment. Pictures of saints on the wall, the Holy Bible, and other Christian books found in shelves, various crosses and small jewelry boxes. With these supposed satanic crimes, evidence of satanic involvement doesn't have anything to do with the crime itself, might not even have anything to do with Satanism. But it is picked out because it piques people's prurient interests. Police officials from the beginning have tried to quell the hysteria for the most part, quickly modifying their earliest flyers and guidelines on the subject, which listed ceramic cats, stained glass, and circles as satanic symbols to watch for at crime sites. While a few are still trying to make a name for themselves as cops for Christ, most of the many articles in police magazines take a fairly even view. There are still satanic task forces in every town, and costly seminars on occult crimes abound, but LaVey has always been on friendly terms with police and investigators, continuing to help when asked. San Francisco police investigator Sandy Gallant, one of the foremost authorities on occult crimes, instructs fellow investigators to focus on the framework of ritualistic crimes or abuse, rather than singling out any one religion. Someone involved in a crime might use certain elements of a particular religious orientation to justify their crime, whether it's Christianity, Catholicism, Rastafarianism, Santeria, Satanism, or any combination of these things. You can't just look at a room, see what looks like a upside-down star or an Ozzy Osbourne poster and say, This is a satanic crime. When looking at a crime now, investigators have to put it into one of two categories. Is the crime a demand of the particular religion, like animal sacrifices in Santeria or voodoo? Or is the religion being used as a justification for their crimes that, because of their own psychological makeup, would be happening anyway? Over the last few years, things have gotten silly. A brief review of expert vocabulary shows not everyone who hangs out her shingle as an occult investigator is as well-grounded as Miss Gallant. Talk show hosts across America have insisted we concern ourselves over the feast of the beast, the Wicca letter. Breeders, altar babies, dabblers, stoners, traditional Satanists, Orthodox Satanists, freestyle Satanists, religious Satanists, ritual abuse, satanic survivors, the black hole ritual, acid pits, and portable crematoriums. Used to get rid of the bodies of sacrificial victims, often brought up in answer to the question, where are the bodies? Spotters, those who act as lookouts, usually gardeners or trashmen, at daycare centers where Satanists are ensconced. Ritualers, pronounced ritualers. Grimoires, which are pronounced grimoires. Trainers, recruiters, and devil dances, what preschoolers do when they're ritually abused. Indicators your child might be getting into Satanism have been listed as wanting to spend time alone, wearing incriminating t-shirts, requesting black sheets or black curtains, wanting a snake as a pet. All are sure signs of the devil at work. When Pope John Paul toured the United States and spoke at the University of Arizona Auditorium, the red devil mascots painted on the walls were covered up so as not to offend His Holiness. High school teams across the country that called themselves some kind of devils changed their names to something less satanic sounding. House numbers, license plates, and telephone prefixes that contained the sinister 666 were finally seen for the demonic influence that they are and were immediately altered, including the number of the house the Reagans moved into after they vacated the White House. A Senate bill number had to be changed from Bill 666 to Bill 649 in February of 1986 because it was feared the legislators would be unduly influenced by the original number. All of it would be pretty funny, except for those people losing their jobs, homes, positions in the community, or parents' trust because of irrational, unfounded fears and accusations. Using Satanism as a justification, too, have been the righteous teachers and school administrators who have searched high school children's lockers for signs of diabolical dabblings. Any kid with a pentagram can be hauled into the principal's office for a thorough talking to by the local priest. Articles report that school librarians are reviewing checkout records to track down anyone checking out dangerous, read, subversive, books for the school library. It all works eventually in our favor, though, says LeVay. All these prey TV evangelists have had their last gasp. They're hurting. So who else do they turn to but the devil? He's always been their real savior. People are tired of the noise. They grow tired of the hysteria. We couldn't have planned it any better. When the satanic hysteria gets to the point of absurdity, people start questioning the whole line of crap. It will eventually get so no one believes anything Christian ministers say anymore. When they hear about the devil and how rotten he is, it just makes them curious about what the satanic viewpoint might be. There are many who are already questioning the wild claims. Arthur Lyons's Satan Wants You, Warner, 1988, challenged the accusers' stories after finding they could produce no hard evidence. In October 1989, the Committee for the Scientific Examination of Religion issued a report on the claims of various breeders and satanic survivors. After a thorough investigation, the report concluded that the most shocking claims, those involving the abductions and ritual murder of children, are easily shown to be false. The allegations of large-scale satanic conspiracies are totally without foundation. In fact, the available evidence leaves only one reasonable conclusion. They do not exist, which is there, italics from the source. Various magazines, including the Skeptical Inquirer, have since devoted cover stories to the debunking of satanic hysteria. There's no propaganda necessary. Just let Satanists speak for themselves. There doesn't have to be a bias one way or another. What irritates me is that even if the producers of a television show make a concession by having a bona fide Satanist on their show, not just some pseudo-Satanist, they give more time to the self-appointed experts than they do the real Satanists. How can they have more authority about Satanism than the adherents themselves? You don't ask Hitler about the joys of Passover. All that needs to be said about Satanism is the truth, and it can't help but alter people's way of thinking. If they ever get a dose of what real Satanism is, Lord help them.